The format of this meeting is a 10-minute speaker, a 10-minute coffee break, and then a main speaker. Tonight, our 10-minute speaker is Paulie. Help me welcome Paulie to the stage.
Damn, you forgot your penny, bro. You forgot your penny.
I'll walk in later.
I'm Paulie. I'm an alcoholic. Glad to be here. Glad to be sober tonight. Mike, thank you. Getting my dead ass to a meeting. Surefire way to get a guy like me to come to a meeting. He called me and asked me to come and talk about myself. So I thought, yeah, I'll go. Let's see what happened, or what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. You know, I'll skip the whole drunk-a-log. If you're here, you already know how to drink. I mean, not very well, just like me. But, you know, I drank for a long time, and it worked, and it was wonderful, and everything was cool, and then it was not so good, and then it was horrible. I'm here to tell you it is possible to be struck sober. I was struck sober. Unfortunately, it was by a van. I got hit by a van here in Prescott and sobered up promptly right after that, about 3 years later. That was my excuse, you know, for a little while right at the end. Hey, you drink too much. Well, yeah, I got hit by a van. You drink too, you know. But so then I ended up, I always knew where you guys were. My dad was a drunk, and he got sober for a while. He ended up dying drunk, but I always knew where AA was, so I kind of kept that card in my pocket at the end, you know. And I still remember my first meeting. It was over at the Alano Club when it was on 6th. And, you know, I was thinking on the way here, Mike, you were the first guy to ever give me a phone number. I didn't use it, but you gave it to me, so I appreciate that. You know, you have to remember we deal with alcoholism. You know, it's not alcoholism. It's not alcohol might be tomorrow. You know, it's alcoholism. So that's what we have to deal with on a daily basis, you know. And I've been around for a little while now. You know, I learned over the years that, you know, I don't have a monster in the cage. You know, a lot of people talk about the disease. It's a monster and it's evil and it's bad. You know, I know that bad is bad. You know, a guy like me, I have a guy in a Hawaiian shirt and a hammock sitting on the beach with an umbrella drink. You know, that's my disease, telling me how everything's going to be wonderful. But, you know, lucky for me, I only have one issue or one problem that I have to deal with in order to take care of my alcoholism, and that's drinking. You know, that is the only thing. If you're new here tonight, you know, congratulations to the chip takers, by the way, but, you know, that's the only thing you have to do 100% correctly in this program is not drink. If your head hits the pillow tonight and you're sober, you have worked the program to 100% success. Now, there's a whole lot of other shit that comes with that, but, you know, I never seen anybody drunk work the steps any good. So, first and foremost, you know, you just don't drink. And, you know, they say don't leave till the miracle happens, and I'm going to share my miracle with you guys. It was, I was at a Thursday night men's meeting. I was like 7 or 8 days sober, and the meeting was about the promises. And it's going around the room, and everybody's talking about how wonderful their lives are. And I don't know whether to scratch my watch or whine my ass. And I remember I looked at the clock, and it was 20 to 8, and the meeting was over at 8. So I made up my mind at 20 to 8 that at 8 o'clock I was going to the bar. Because my ego is such, you know, with 6 or 8 days sober, whatever it was, I couldn't leave that meeting early. Because all those people that didn't even know who I was might think ill of me, you know. But I made up my mind, man. I looked at the clock, and like I said, it was 20 to 8. And I just knew that either everybody in that room was full of shit, or they couldn't possibly have been as sick and bad off as I was. You know, you couldn't get there from here is what I thought. So I decided I was going to go have a drink, and the thought that struck me was, to hell with the promises, what do I get right now? And a gentleman's ticket got called. And he said, I'm Bill, and I'm an alcoholic. And if you're new out there, you're probably thinking, to hell with the promises, what do I get right now? And I was like, oh, shit. And he said, I'll tell you what you get right now. You get 2 guarantees. He said, I guarantee you, if you don't ever pick up another drink, you will never get drunk again. He said, I guarantee it. And I thought, ooh, I never thought of that, you know. And he said, and the second guarantee, if you don't get drunk long enough, your life will get better than it is right now. And mind you, I was 20 minutes from a drink. And I remember looking across the table at that guy, and I thought, okay, old man, I'm going to give it 6 months. And if my life doesn't get better, so help me God, I'm kicking your ass. I don't care, you know. But you know what? Here's what God gave me that night. You know, I couldn't wrap my head around the whole, you know, I never thought to stay sober you don't drink. You know, I just thought, God, how am I ever going to stay sober? And what God gave me was something tangible, touchable, and real that I could hang it on that night. That guy said, if I don't drink, I don't get drunk. And that guy said, if I don't get drunk long enough, my life will get better. So I was 20 minutes from a drink. Now, fast forward, this is almost 17 years later, I'm standing up here in front of you. And the reason I'm telling you that story is you never know whose life you're going to save. And for 15 plus years at another meeting that I go to, that this gentleman Bill went to as well, he's deceased now, but every year on my birthday I would share that story. And finally, the last year that I shared it, he said, you know, Paulie, I wish I could remember that night so that I could pontificate about how I saved your life that night. He said, but I don't even remember uttering those words, you know. And here it is, you know, the impact that that had on me, it was life-changing for me. So, you know, I mentioned alcoholism, you know, and how do we deal with it? This is it, man. And, you know, it amazes me how much this program gives us and how little it really asks in return, you know. We would be a much bigger organization if we didn't throw in the you can't drink part, because this is a way of life, you know. And how do I deal with my alcoholism? You know, first and foremost, I don't drink. If you don't drink and you hang around here long enough, this program will work you. It's impossible to not get this program if you come around here and you stay sober in between meetings, you know. So I don't drink, I go to meetings. I share a little, I allow myself to be shared with, I love a little, and I allow myself to be loved. That's all you have to do. That's all this program asks, and a couple bucks in the basket, you know. And, here comes the cliche part, but, you know, Alcoholics Anonymous has given me a life that I never even imagined I could have. And I got sober for all the wrong reasons. I did it 100% incorrectly, except I didn't drink. That's the only thing that I did right, you know. I wasn't a guy that woke up one day and said, gee, you know, gosh, I think I might be drinking a little too much. No, I was a guy that said, man, I'm dying. And my ego was such that I felt that this world needed this blood puking, bedwetting drunk. You know, I was way too important to die. So I said, I got to do something. You know, this world needs me. And then I came to AA, you know, and I remember in the beginning I was convinced that the guys at the meetings were betting I wasn't going to come back. And the guys at the bar were waiting for me to come back through the door. And in retrospect, neither group really gave a shit either way. But, you know, with my ego, that's how I decided to stay sober, was I was going to show them, you know. And, you know, I'll close with this. You won't find anybody more willing than me when I got here, because I was willing, probably like a lot of you, to come to AA, get all my shit in one sock until all the heat was off and everything was okay, and then I was going to go out there and get on with my life again, you know. But you AAers, you guys are tricky. You know, you guys tricked me. And I just started coming, and then, you know, nobody told me to stay. Nobody said I had to do this or I had to do that. You know, there was suggestions. And before I knew it, man, I started feeling better. You know, everything started getting okay. And then I thought, you know, why would I go back to that when I can have this? And, you know, I'll leave you guys with this. Every day in sobriety is not roses. You know, some days you're the hydrant, some days you're the dog, but I'll tell you, all you have to want is what's in here that much more than what's out there. You know, and some days that's all I can muster is that much. But Alcoholics Anonymous has given me a way of life I never knew was possible, and I thank you all for being here for me tonight. Thank you.